First, I'd like to welcome everybody and let everybody know this meeting is being recorded, and these will be the official minutes of the meeting. Present, Mr. McLaughlin, myself, Walt Shaheen, Mr. Kurtz, as well as Dr. Otto and Mr. McElmoyle. Mr. Potts will be 5 to 10 minutes late, but will also be in attendance.
About 7 members of the public.
7 members of the public and the press, for a total of 8. The press. Real quick, everybody, well, there's some new faces here. I don't stand on decorum here. You don't need to get up to the podium. Just do one of these, raise your hand, and on the topic, and we sort of do a family time. So you can talk, and we'll go from there, okay? We do try to stay on the agenda items. At the end, if somebody has something that we discussed in the past and would like to discuss it, we can. But basically, we are here to discuss the items on the agenda and bring a recommendation to the board, possibly on what's on the items. Anything that's not on this agenda, we're not going to bring a recommendation to the board because it hasn't been discussed, nor have we done any work on it. Something that's been brought to the board in the past has already been brought to the board, and we're not going to revisit those items because they've already been brought to the board with a recommendation. We'll listen to you if that happens to be the situation. The agendas are over there. We're going to review briefly the high school program course selection guide. It was voted on and accepted last week with the exceptions of the waiver clause. We had talked to the math department when we're satisfied at the 2% satisfying what we'd like to be able to allow because the math department had lowered their level for getting into an honors course. But if I am not mistaken, I'm sure, Mr. Kurtz, you've looked at this. I haven't had a chance to look at this yet. I was out of town last week. The other classes, the other course studies seem to still be in the 92 range to get into honors.
Yeah, let me just quick interrupt you here. I looked over everything this afternoon, and what we did, I did see that the administration changed the social studies classes as well as the English classes to allow that 2% buffer. However, on my copy, I do not see anything for the math program, nor do I see anything for the science program. And if you recall, I asked at the last voting meeting whether it was included for science. Mr. McElmoyle said, yes, it was included for every major subject. And according to my copy, it is not. It is only for social studies and language arts.
Well, what copy do you have?
I have the
Was it
copy.
forwarded to you, because I emailed the changes on January 10th.
Check
Mr. Shaheen and Dr. Otto with all the changes.
And Dr. Otto forwarded to us,
That is the one.
and that's the copy that I have.
That's,
Yeah, I did forward that.
yeah, so I want you to look at page 2.
Page 2. I'm going to page 2.
Page 1.
Mission statement and academic goal.
At
Page
the
1.
bottom.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
No,
Course
that's
criteria.
Page 1.
Yes.
Page
Page 2, general information course criteria. In the first paragraph, in the italics.
He does not identify any courses. It basically just says any student within 2 percentage
Okay.
points of academic course prerequisites may contact a teacher, request a recommend moving in a class. So now you're talking about any academic class, honors, on.
That's where we covered academics.
Okay.
Now I want you to look at page 30.
The man came prepared.
Yeah.
It's all done, it's all in here.
Page 30.
This is what I was looking at.
30 is your English. That covers your AP English and your honors. It's at the bottom of the entire English section.
English has their honors cut off at a 92 for academic and an 87 for honors.
No, that's what it says under the AP class.
I'm looking at 12th grade honors English. It says 92 mandatory for academic English to get into the course, which means a 90.
No, you want to look at the bottom of page 30. English, AP, and honors borderline procedures.
Right.
It says if they're within 2 percentage points, then that's the procedure for them to have a pathway to get into the class. So if they get a 90%, that's within 2 percentage points, let's say they're in, they want to go to an honors class, and they're going from academic. And
Right.
The requirement is a 92 in academic English to get into honors.
Right.
If they're within 2 percentage points of the 92, that, instead of putting it under each course, we just create, because we wanted to just get it in here quickly, we created this paragraph at the bottom of page 30.
But that was my point when I said a 90 or an 85. So so if you get an 85, there's a procedure to try to get
Right.
into honors English.
So English is covered now.
Now, I'm talking about science moving from an academic to an honors. Now, it says in the beginning
Yeah.
to move to academic. Does that include? Is that
Actually,
classes
academic,
refers to honors as well as AP? Academic is an academic level,
yeah.
or is it an academic
Academics
level?
versus, yeah, academic,
Okay,
meaning
'cause that was a
coursework,
bit-
yeah.
That was confusing, and I
Okay.
wish that would be a bit more, made a bit more clear.
If you look at page 36 for science,
All right, moving to 36. Page, okay. just
They put it at the beginning, okay.
I'm having trouble.
because science had it in here actually a year ago. We were asked, some departments did, if some departments would consider it, and science did. So it says here at the beginning of the science courses on page 36.
Okay.
You see the procedure there. Well, I'll let you read that.
Oh, for the public, 9th grade, you need a 92 in your 8th grade science and a 90% teacher recommendation and a 90% grade in your Iowa 8th grade. Now, these are all or an or in one of them,
That would be all.
okay?
Now, I will say.
Okay, biology needs an, okay.
We did miss that. I do have that to take out. We don't give the Iowa test anymore.
Right.
So that's going to come.
So basically a 92 in a teacher recommendation,
Right.
okay? For 10th through 12th grade sciences, to go into AP or honors, you need an 87 in the previous honors course, an 85 and 86 in the previous honors course with a teacher's recommendation, 92 in the academic course, or an 88 to 91 in the academic course with a teacher's recommendation.
Okay.
Yep.
I was expecting that to be the same format as the English and social.
Well, again, as long as there's a format, I can live with that.
Yeah.
And social
You
studies,
saw social studies already?
I saw social
It's on
studies.
page 43.
Yeah. Mine's on page 42, actually. I'm not sure if I'm assuming we have the same version at this point.
right, no, yeah, so, okay.
And now math, we decided not to do anything with that. We're going to leave it.
Well, we're going to leave math alone. Math being as an 83, I believe it is, without going and finding it, is fair enough as it is, especially being a spiral curriculum.
I can live with that.
You know, I think it gives a pathway, and that's all I'm asking for is, you know, some people do have some issues, family issues, you know, death or whatever, and it gives them a path to move into that path, that methodology, so.
All right, those were my concerns, and I didn't get a chance to look over this before the voting meeting. Maybe that was my fault, but I expected it to come back in front of the committee.
It was supposed to come in front of the committee. That was the way we had left it.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm glad that was addressed. Thank you.
Okay, and so we'll bring this back, if there's no problem, we'll bring it back in front of the board to vote on the passage of those three. Okay.
I just want to make a point, though. Whenever you lower a criteria, let's say someone is the percentage point below, they have an 89, or they have an 84. Let's say, you know, depending if they're coming from honors or academic. They will petition me, and I'm going to say no. And then they're probably going to go to Dr. Otto. When you lower the standard, the next percentage that's right below the new standard that you set, they're going to be knocking at the door.
Well, I mean,
That's what we were trying to say, is it keeps getting lowered. So we want to make sure that we're all saying no.
we're all saying no, and I'll be honest with you, and you know, we can only go from personal. You know, my daughter had it, where she had to go into the accelerated and then back into the honors program because she was 1 point, and she lived with it. I mean, it is what it is, and you got to make your bones to get back up there. I mean, that's just how it is. So
We did the borderline thing. That should be a solid no.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure I was going to hear that.
I have gotten a few, I haven't I can't honestly represent that. I've been inundated, so we'll have to see what happens with the new standard. In terms of, I have had a few parents when I first got here with some concerns with what it was at that time. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
I do know that the three-tiered for honors biology coming out of 8th grade was an issue because of the Iowa test being all three, but now that it's just two, the recommendation and the grade, we should be okay there.
Okay.
Do we know what the number change of students available to be in the program is as a result of the 2% change?
No, we don't know that yet. We won't know until the final grades at the end of the school year.
If I was going to go back and look at last year, is that 10 people or 10 students, 50 students?
I couldn't give you a
What was the waiver policy last year?
For academic, it was, if a parent signed a waiver to get their child in, they could get in.
So you'll get no more than that. I mean, last year, if the level was, say, a 92, and you had an 83, the parents said, I want them in there, they
For
signed.
academic
for-
only.
Yeah, for academic, they got into that.
They would be in.
Right. For honors,
We didn't honor any waivers for honors or AP.
yeah. And I'm not sure if having that 2% waiver is going to do that much more. I just, because Dr. Otto would have gotten phone calls and you would have gotten phone calls if somebody had a 91 and needed a 92, and they weren't coming out of the woodwork for it, so.
No,
But it still would have been signed and approved, right?
If it came, no, this past year it would not. This year, coming up, it would, they'd have to fill out a waiver and go for it, so. But again, my point is, at a 92, somebody who had a 91 would have gone to Mr. McAmoyle or Dr. Otto asking, hey, I want to have my child in there, and they weren't getting that.
Okay.
So, for this past year, or the last couple years, ever since it's been in place. So I don't see a sudden influx of people wanting to get into honors or AP who are point low.
I haven't met with a parent on this in over 2 years.
But now you will probably.
No, we'll see. I mean, we'll have to see how that plays out.
Okay. Any questions before we move on? Crickets.
It's not a,
Yeah. Okay.
you might
Any-
want to, if you want to flip this, we can do
Yeah.
this. That's really
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Any other questions for Mr. McAmoyle?
I have something out on the agenda that I have a few questions with that took place at the high school.
Oh,
Is
can
that
we-
now a good time to address it, have Mr. McElwain's here?
Well, as long as he's on the bowl, yeah.
There.
All right.
Yeah.
A few things, these, I know I bring a new perspective to the board, and I'm not going to shy away from things other board members may not address, but I'm aware that during homeroom, a few weeks ago, there was a matchmaker survey handed out, and homeroom was extended 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion as a board member is that we should not be extending homeroom and taking away from instructional time for something like that. I know it was a fundraiser for a club, but I do not think that is a good use of instructional time that could be better spent in class. That's my opinion, and I'm not sure if, I don't know if the committee is aware of this.
Again, I think it's, to be honest,
it's
it's,
for years.
That's not really a reason to
Yeah.
continue doing it if we're
No,
spending
but
class
there's been
time.
no problem with it.
Well,
And
the problem would be that the kids are not getting the class time that they should be if they're doing this instead.
It's not appropriate for this committee.
well, again, I don't think this is a topic for this committee. I think if you want to bring this up one-on-one.
Bring it up, well, I bring it
Yeah.
up with Dr. Otto.
Yeah, bring it up with Dr. Otto,
I'll do
please.
that.
Mr. McElmoy is allowed to run his building as he sees
That's
fit.
true, but, and I, as a board
And he
member-
makes that decision
Yeah.
as a board member and a student. If you have an issue with that, you can address it with Mr. McElmoy directly, and if you're not satisfied with that, then you go to his
Is that
supervisor.
okay, Dr. Otto? if I address
Absolutely.
it to him directly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Then one other thing about, I'm not sure if this happens in the middle school too, this is more of a district-wide issue, report card distribution. Is there any reason that happens at the end of the day? I'm just curious. I'm not-
Well, I can probably answer that, and they get lost if you don't.
I thought
And then
that
we
might
have to
been a reason.
duplicate them, that's why they're done at the end of the day. They're done at the end of the day since I've been going to school.
Okay.
Right.
And that's when they had
also
stone
they
tablets,
get,
so.
And they get their printed copy, even though most of them should know their grades. They can focus on that and get upset and perseverate over that all day.
All right.
It's better to give it to them at the end of the day.
Okay. That was just a question. Thank you for the answer.
Okay.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you for allowing me to ask that question.
We're going to take number 3, as long as Mr. McElmoyle's still here, and talk about the BCTC and the math discussion, seeing that it's probably something you're going to need to know about. And Dr. Ott, if you could fill the public.
Just, if you haven't been following, the BCTC has pretty much lost its domain over math instruction throughout the county due to a number of factors, a lot of them having to relate to scores on standardized tests and just some other logistical issues. So I'll let you run with it from there and talk about, what it's going to impact with us and the things that we're planning.
Well, it's going to impact us in that we'll need more math staff at the high school. As I said last meeting, there are approximately 40 students per grade level that go to VOTEC in grades 10, 11, and 12. So you have 120 students approximately each year, give or take a few. And when they take their math in 10th grade and 11th grade at VOTEC. Their senior year, however, many of them go out on co-op. So when we did the strategic plan, the last strategic plan, I think there's a year and a half to go on that current strategic plan. VOTEC students only needed 3 math credits to graduate versus 4 that homeschool students need because they go out on, a lot of them, not all of them, go out on co-op. So now when they come back, we'll just start with the 10th and 11th grade. That would be about 80 students that will be coming back, and they will be getting their math at Daniel Boone. That you can think of it this way: about 20 to 25 students per class. That's about 4 sections of math students. Now, that's without looking at the current sectioning for this year and how many seats are available in the courses that they may select. And typically they're going to select applied geometry in 10th grade and applied algebra 2 in 11th grade. Some of them will select academic courses, but most of them will select applied. So the applied sections will be increasing by at least 1, maybe 2 sections. So as I mentioned earlier, and Mrs. Trainer mentioned as it relates to staffing, we would need half a math person at the high school
To do both, right?
to fill the need that's going to be created. And as I mentioned before, but I learned at the board meeting, BCTC, then because they're laying off math teachers, shouldn't be getting as much money from all the sending schools. And it was mentioned at the board meeting, I forget who represents us now.
Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Wolf did, yes.
He said that we did, our share of, that we have to pay is less because of, they've reduced their math staff. So that, in a way, that kind of helps cover the increase then for the math staffing back at the home schools.
What is the, and I'm looking at last year's numbers here, for applied geometry. No, it's applied, yeah. I'm trying to get a feeling on where you think the class sizes should be.
Well, based on this year, are you looking at that now? Is that
This is last year's. I'm just trying to get a feeling. You didn't give me this year's. I'm dangerous when you give it to me, so.
Do you want to know how many I have right now?
I'll have it in a second.
Yeah, senior one of these. Senior one of them. I saw you back there counting a few minutes ago. I mean, again, I think it's irrelevant. Even if you got last year, you had 6 sections. If you put 3 kids in per section, it's 18. You still end up with 22. So that's still a section you're going to need. So
Yeah,
I don't.
it's at least a section.
Yeah. So even if you, I mean, again, I'm just going by these numbers. If you put 3 kids per class to get them up into the low to early 20s on last year's numbers, you're still going to be a section out for both of them. So.
And last year, if you're looking at applied geometry, is a little misleading because we changed the sequencing in the applied track. So there were probably about twice as many sections of applied geometry last year as there are currently. I may be wrong. I'll give you that.
No, you're right. For this year, there's 4 sections of applied geometry.
Okay, and there were 6 last year.
So if you're looking, and there are 80 students in applied geometry. 4 sections. And we try to keep the applied students are, especially at the lower 9th and 10th, you want to have a smaller group than some of the academic kids because they're more challenging to manage at times, especially the younger ones. So when I do the sectioning for them, I will take the total number and look at 20 to 23 per section, whereas in an academic class, I may look at 25 to 27 per section.
Okay.
And just to mention, to tie it into what we've done with our preliminary budget presentation, that whole scenario is represented in those preliminary figures that we've already posted in terms of cuts and savings and whatever.
Okay.
Well, there is a change that I'll just bring to your attention. Foresight testing was done away with.
Yes.
So, we have the courses in there called Academic Math Support 9, 10, and 11. The Academic Math Support 10 and 11, placement in those classes was based on your Foresight testing results. If you didn't come across as proficient on the 3rd Foresight test in the spring, then you were put in Academic Math Support 10 or 11. You're put in Academic Math Support 9 based on your 8th grade PSSA score. If you're not proficient, you would go into 9th grade Academic Math Support. So, there are 2 sections there that are going to be gone, eliminated, because there's no foresight to...
So you may have the head count already without having to increase head count.
We won't, we really were looking at not really increasing a math person. There is the physics science teacher that is also certified in math was teaching those sections of academic math support.
Okay.
So he would just be flipping over to these new sections. We wouldn't be looking for a new half-time person.
Okay.
We already have our
So
person.
that may change those budget numbers
Right.
slightly.
Right.
That's why they're preliminary.
Okay.
So that covers that.
Now, you understand why we did away with why we recommended to do away with the foresight.
I'm well
I mean,
aware why.
when people can memorize the answers and the questions very quickly, it very quickly does away with the validity of a test.
Sure.
It doesn't take long to figure out how many scoops of ice cream somebody needs to get when you have the test 3 times. So, okay. Questions?
Just want to include in part of the conversation the Voc Tech school is required to inform all districts about this transfer of entity issue, whereby because we're kind of a jointure with all 18 schools, or 16, and for us, since Muhlenberg and Reading have their own, there are legal implications for the furloughs of those, I think it's 7 teachers from the BCTC. We're probably not going to be in a position, based on the fact that we don't really need a teacher, to have to take one of them back, but there'll be discussion of it, and we're going to have to come up with a...
They're not going to force those teachers into our program and then stack and rack them based on seniority, are they?
No, not that I'm aware of. I have to get that out to Brian Subers and make sure, what our standing is, because we were served a letter from the attorney for the BTCT, so I'm going to be taking that forward, and by the time we get to the next board meeting, certainly have more information
Because
for
I
you
can
on
probably
it.
tell you won't get 5 votes to support hiring an individual
Well,
that you force
you
that
won't.
to,
It
off the
probably-
record.
Probably, no, on the record, it probably wouldn't come with my support either,
Okay.
so, given that we don't need a teacher, I don't know how we can be asked to take one, but I don't know the ins and outs of that particular transfer of entity law, so we'll have to wait to see how that shakes out.
Okay.
And I don't know if there was any, I know you had received an email from Mr. Wolf about general history of the BCTC. And
Well, I think Mr. Wolf wanted to make sure this was handled.
Okay.
And that was more or less
That's fine. Okay.
he said the 2.5.
Because Mr. McElmore and I could give you a 10-year history or more of the or relationship with BTCT.
No, I mean, I've been here long enough to understand, and I think we all fully support the fact that we're being held accountable to their test scores, yet we're not teaching them.
And that's a problem. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
So,
And
it hasn't hurt us nearly as much as from what I understand, other school districts that,
But, and I just want to make it clear, especially with the press here, this isn't just a move made by Daniel Boone. Everybody did it. I don't think there's any math instruction left at the BCTC,
No.
at the BCTC. So it was generally a county-wide concern by the high school principals in the county schools, and I'll throw my hat into the ring and on the part of the superintendents that it really wasn't meeting our needs anymore, what was happening at the BCTC. We're glad to have them back. We think we can do just as good a job instructing them.
No, they lose, 2 hours in a day?
Bill, you'd have to answer that. I don't know the implications there.
You just happen to have that information?
Where'd you read?
That wasn't a setup.
How many students were enrolled there? It was minimal, wasn't it?
120.
I think he just gave the number before you
Yeah,
walked in.
yeah.
There's about 40 in each grade in 10th level. Thank you.
It's CTE.
That's the first one.
Career and technology, I don't know what CTE stands for.
Career and technology education would be my guess.
Yes.
Right.
Is this something new? I don't even,
Well, I have to get some details because they want our students there at a certain time.
no, that's always been an issue too.
It may be an issue. I might as well talk about it now.
What classes does somebody who goes to BCTC, used to be easy when I went to school, it's called BOCES, we were able to do it real easy, have to take in our billing? They take the 4 basics, right?
In our building.
Right.
Well, now they're going to take,
Moving forward.
they're going to take the 4 majors.
Okay.
However, BCTC was offering social studies, as we talked about at a prior meeting, where the students wouldn't have instruction. They would do their social studies on a computer and on their own on a computer when they had time.
Yeah, I see that
We
happening.
do not support that.
Nor did anyone
We
else.
want them to have social studies at the home school, which means, and the reason I got these 3 papers together for you, you can see that if you look at the first page I gave you, their schedule specifications, they're talking about the 4th bullet down. Lunch at BCTC is an option for all district students between the time of 10:30 and 12 noon. Students shall be provided a 20-minute lunch period. They want, the 3rd bullet just above that, they want kids there no later than 12 noon. So, looking at, then I got some information on page 2. We have 2 BCTC locations, as you know, west and east. West is a 30-minute drive, east is 20 minutes. You can see what this year their arrival time is for each of those locations, and when they get there, they eat lunch in both locations first.
So it's not a 28-minute gap just in between, they're eating lunch during that time?
As soon as they get there.
Okay.
Then, the last line, the time in class is what you just asked. At BCTC and West is 2 hours and 55 minutes, 42 minutes of which is math. 20 minutes is, lunch, which.
So basically, they have an hour that they're doing lunch or eating math, of what, moving forward, 42 minutes of it isn't there anymore.
Right. And so what I did, I also gave you then our bell schedule. Because what this means is, looking forward to next year, all of our sophomores and juniors and seniors are going to have to, I'm going to recommend that they eat lunch at the home school during the sophomore or junior lunch. So when you look on the left-hand column of that bell schedule, you see the second lunch bell schedule. Everybody goes through the first 3 periods, and then whether the first lunch is 9th grade, and you have a separate bell schedule. Second lunch is 10th, third lunch is 11th. I believe I have this all worked out, and the numbers in lunch will grow a little bit. The bottom line is, not to bore you with all those schedules, but we would not be leaving, and you look at the second or third lunch, until 12:08. Well, that's when lunch with, the sixth period is over for, when you look at the 10th grade bell schedule. And 12:08 is when lunch is over for the 11th grade bell schedule. Now, it takes 20 minutes to get to East, so they can be there by 12:30. They won't be there at 12. Now, BCTC may have a problem with that, but they will still get 2.5 hours, because you can see on the second page I gave you that they're in class until
250,
2:50.
242, yeah.
So if I get them there at 12:30, we're close to 2.5 hours of class time total, whereas before they were counting math. So they're actually gonna
More
have
time in their
They're going to
specialty
get more
area.
time in their
They're gonna
specialty.
have more time in their specialty area. Getting there at 12:30 to East Campus, and let's say, and some of them, I could get the VOTEC kids in line first, and they could finish lunch in 20 minutes at Daniel Boone too. Once, as anybody that does lunch duty here knows, the first kids through the line are done their lunch in
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Well, yeah, why don't we do that? I mean, why don't we get them in line first,
I
get them fed, and get them on the bus as soon as we can?
So that, because I need 5 periods of instruction and a period of lunch. The 4 majors, and then they're gonna have their phys ed
Is that,
and traffic safety and careers in 10th grade.
right,
And in 11th grade, they're gonna have phys ed and health.
right.
So I need those 5 periods. I can't send them to VOTEC for lunch because their lunch time frame is over.
I would say just what you said.
So I just-
Do your 5 periods, put them through lunch, get them in the line first, let them eat their lunch in 20 minutes, and get them on the bus. You get them on the bus before noon, or 12:30, they're going to be there.
I think the point that he's trying to make is we may get, even at the board level and at my level, complaints from the BTCT about the arrival time or whatever of Daniel Boone
Hey,
Can we
students.
give them a heads up and see what their feelings are? Or do we?
Well, you know what their feelings are going to be.
Well, their feelings about it are not going to be, they're going to want to do what they want to do.
They kind of, like, they've always asked over the years for 16 districts to have a common calendar, for example.
And that's never
16
going anywhere.
It's never
school
happened.
districts have never agreed to that. And they want 16 districts to have everybody arrive at the same time, and that's never gonna happen. So I'm just preparing y'all for, you might get some complaints, whoever represents us at the BCTC, Mr. Wolf. Oh, Daniel Boone's still sending their kids late. Well,
It is what it is.
if they prepared them in math and all the districts didn't pull their kids out, we wouldn't be having this problem.
No. I don't perceive it as, the board's going to support you on that one there. I don't, and they're going to have to be a little more flexible, because as you said, if they were providing a quality math program, then we wouldn't have to pull math back into our building and take that time here.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
What are they doing from so they want everyone there for 12 o'clock. What are they going to be doing from that 12 o'clock time frame to 12:30? Is that still going to be them doing math?
No, they're not doing math.
Yeah, so what are they going to be, or is that going to be, what are they doing at that particular time?
They would be in their specialty areas, earning their, like, they have to earn so many hours in their particular area. So it's always been an issue, and the reason, actually, Daniel Boone's one of the last schools to pull the kids out due to math. Other schools have been doing it for 5 to 8 years. Because I wanted the kids to get the hours they needed to get their certification. So that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be in their specialty area, working in their shops, or getting their hours, and they have to pass certain tests in each shop and they need to put their hours in before they can sometimes even take those tests.
But if I understand it, then our students would be arriving in the middle of some type of either instruction or practice or whatever they're going to be doing in the BCTC. So they would be a half hour into their planned.
Or they could be doing lunch or social studies at the, again,
There has always been that staggered
Yeah.
kind of arrival situation.
that's part of their concern. They want everybody there at a time, but everybody staggers in till everybody's in at a certain point. They're still going to have lunch there, and they're still going to, not ours, but the students still have the opportunity to have lunch there, and those that elect to do this social studies or whatever will be doing it during that period of entry.
I don't know, have you heard, have they actually plan to institute this social studies program? Or was
No,
that,
I haven't gotten details.
I haven't either.
will be meeting with the East principal in a couple of weeks.
Now, you mentioned that they have to get a certain number of hours to get their certification. Would this hamper their ability to get those hours?
I would have to check with them at BCTC to see if that would happen.
Okay.
That is what was happening to schools that had already pulled their kids out for math, whether they were AM, VOTAC, or PM. They didn't necessarily get their hours.
But I don't want to put Daniel Boone kids at a disadvantage by not having the same opportunity that the other districts have to get their hours. You know what I mean?
But we're putting them at a disadvantage by having them taking a
With math, I
math course, which
understand,
is
yeah.
substandard. So I mean,
Yeah,
let's be real on that. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're all going to be, every district is sending, we can't assume that other districts are sending them there on time, because I know of one district that they're keeping their kids back for social studies. I think most of them will probably decide the same.
So there's a chance that other districts will be in the same boat we're in.
Absolutely.
Well, if their school's already holding them for a subject, they're already working around that hour schedule that we're figuring around 2.5.
frankly, geography plays into this too. The schools that are fortunate enough to be like the Ole, Fleetwood, Brandywine group, they're 10 minutes away from the school. Ole's, it's right in their town, so it's 2 minutes for them. So their issue's a little different. So Daniel
Yeah, but-
Boone being where we are makes it even a little different for
but
us.
Mr. McMoyle, I mean, if the third lunch period is over 12:08, right? And it starts at 11:36, as you said, I mean, 20 minutes, you get them out of there at noon, and the bus leaves at noon, they're there at 12:30 at the latest, they've got their 2.5 hours.
Right, I could, like I said.
Yeah,
devote
get them in there
kids in
early,
my
get them in there
first-
fast, have them out of their classrooms 5 minutes before the end of the period, whatever, to get them through the line. They could be on the bus and out by noon, and there to get their 2.5 hours, so.
Those kids that go to the beast, they're pretty root tonight. They understand they need to keep moving. That's
Well,
their day.
they know they need to, they
That's
know
what their
that,
day's
so.
like.
You might be able to possibly bump that up to leave even earlier.
Yeah,
They
but
know-
again,
know to get in there, eat.
well, you get them out of get them out of the class just before lunch 5 minutes early. That way they're there and ready to roll. I don't see it as being a major issue, a heartburn, other than BCTC having issues with us. Again, I mean, we could get them on time and they'll find an issue. So, let's leave it at that.
I have just one question. I'm not exactly sure. Would you be having seniors potentially eating lunch with sophomores?
No, I would probably move some sophomores to the, juniors to the sophomore lunch, and seniors to the junior lunch.
I know this year it's kind of been implemented with some AP classes, scheduling issues. Has that had any issues? Have any issues?
No,
Well, AP Physics kids are they're juniors. There's quite a few of them that are eating with the seniors, and it hasn't
Yeah,
been an
I
issue.
noticed that. I was just wondering if there were any unforeseen consequences.
Do you have an issue eating with juniors?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Someone sit at my table.
All in the same school.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that was
Wow.
considered.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
there haven't been any issues.
Okay, that's good. All right, then.
Okay.
So I'll keep the board up to date on what happens with the transfer of entity.
We'll bring this up and we'll cover that.
I don't know that this even really needs board action. I think
Doesn't
it's
need
more
board action. I
that you
think
need to
board
be aware of
knowledge
it.
so that Mr. Wolf knows that it is.
It'll be interesting with Dr. Lee at our little
That's true.
dinner that we might happen to,
Was that scheduled?
No, it's not. We haven't, I mean, they have it on the calendar. We haven't formally signed off on it yet,
What
but
month is that going to be?
April 23rd,
April 23rd.
Okay. Okay.
voting meeting in April.
Any questions? Okay. K-12 staffing, class size
Well, there's
update.
really, this is just more an informational item. You had already received a handout, so I don't know that I need to, I don't know if you want another copy of this. It hasn't changed since you were first given it to it. Just for reference, on January 27th. Mrs. Trainer really needs to wait for and this relates to this is all speculation since we don't have approval from PDE yet on class, the ability to even do this. So two things, a number of stars have to line up. One, the governor's budget announcement is next week, so that's going to impact the board's decision here. Whether or not the curtailments are approved will certainly impact this decision. But the bigger variable is we have to wait until pretty much the end of March until all of our enrollment figures are in, and then we can begin to. So you've already seen this chart. I don't really have anything, and Mrs. Trainer wouldn't have had anything
I think
new
we got
to add.
more of a concern, and I've talked to a couple of the other board members, is we don't know. Yeah, our kindergarten enrollment are down because some people went the first,
Right.
the couple of the churches went out and some of the preschools went out and decided to make some money or some
Right.
hay by the sun by saying, hey, we'll do full day. The question is how many of those actually stay there and how many come back into first grade?
Well, I think there was also a certain amount of shock last year, obviously, when we went from full day to half day, and that got a lot of press, and now I think people have accepted that's the way we're going now, and I think you'll see a stabilization maybe in the kindergarten numbers, but
Right.
that first grade number
May
is
come
really
up.
is the one that's kind of
Right.
whether people are going to decide to come back or not, we have no way of knowing until that process is ended. But it'll still give the board time to make the decisions it needs to make regardless. We should have, I'm hoping that by the voting meeting this month, we have the decision from PDE, and then it's going to be in the board's hands to decide what you want to do with all those curtailments anyway.
Do you know when enrollment figures will be in again? I know you mentioned it.
We give them out monthly.
You'll get them
so
monthly at the
you'll get
voting
them
meeting.
when I give you the committee of the whole packet. I mean,
Now-
if you want an up-to-date one, you can just give me a call and I'll email them to you.
For first grade and kindergarten registration,
Mhm.
do you know when that deadline is? When we'll know how many kids we're going to be getting for next year?
Yeah, I don't know the exact date, but toward the end of March.
Thank you.
I think they're posted on the web, the 2 dates she's going to start the registration.
I think there's something
Right.
on the website. Yeah.
There's something already on there for first grade registration. Kindergarten and first grade. I know I was out at a couple buildings today, and they have signs posted in the elementary windows as well. So that's about all I have on
Again, we knew this.
K-12.
We knew this was going to be a light meeting just because we covered so much the last meeting.
I don't know if you have questions from the audience.
Anybody? Just open floor to general questions if anybody's got any. Okay, guess not.
You want to announce the next date?
Yeah, well, again, it's a standing date. It's the first Thursday of every month,
Correct.
so
So that would be,
I don't have a calendar on
wait a
it.
minute, I do.
March 8th.
March 8th.
Which would be March 8th,
Oh, no, wait a minute. March 1st.
March 1st.
It's the first Thursday, right? Or
Yeah,
the second?
first Thursday.
March 1st.
Okay. Mr. McMahon, any topics you'd like to have discussed? I mean, we're open for topics here. I mean, we're going to bring a few ourselves. If you've got anything you'd like us to look at, discuss, ruminate over, I mean,
Tonight or for the future?
for the future.
Can't think of any at the moment.
Let us know. I mean, we want to keep, I'd also like to get Mr. Henkel
Mhm.
to discuss his
I think
bell schedule.
you might want to also have him discuss the implications if you decide to curtail. That might be a good place to do this if that
Yeah.
foreign language thing goes through.
Yeah, well, again, I'm not, there's,
I know that's based on what the board votes, but it
yeah,
would be
I mean,
nice. to know.
I don't think, again, I got, Mr. Kurtz to my right here doesn't want, is very adamant about wanting a tax increase, but there's also a probably majority of the board that is not going to vote for a budget that cuts program either, so, I mean, we're going both ways here, so,
Well, it'll be an interesting discussion.
yes, it will be, so. So, I'd like to have Mr. Henkel come and discuss his.
I'm sure he'd be happy to.
His, how he plans on handling the change in the
All
bell
right,
schedule.
I'll add him as a,
So I won't be needed at the next meeting.
No, you don't have to come.
All right.
You have the night off.
middle school
Yeah.
is on.
Any other subjects the other board members would like to see discussed? I'm sure you have a list over
I
there.
actually do not have a list right
Really?
now. I had one at home, but I didn't bring it.
Okay, well, email it to me and we can.
All right.
I called his mom, told him
Yeah.
to put it in trash.
Oh, by the way, I'd like to make a public announcement here that, and I found out about this earlier in the week, but Mr. Potts' son won the middle school spelling bee.
Hey,
It was out
congratulations.
Do you remember what the word was?
Bambino,
Oh.
but that was very great kids, 30 kids in total. And Mr. Hankel said that was the longest spelling bee that they had to date there. So he's moving on, so hopefully he's studying away.
Where's he go from there?
He goes to districts.
Okay,
So.
good.
That's all I have for the good of the order.
I know that everybody's sad that this is a short meeting, but if there are no other questions, unfortunately, it's only 45 minutes, but we did cover a few things. We'll bring some things back to the board. We'll have some topics to discuss because there are some things going on. So. Thank you.
Over and out.